What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FallenRedZeo Show. I'm back with more DC Multiverse figures, and this time we have the Snyder Cut versions of Steppenwolf and Darkseid. So these are two big figures, deluxe figures, whatever you want to call them. They're much bigger in size compared to our normal McFarlanes, which is fitting since these characters are much bigger in the movies compared to our normal Justice League. So of course, with the Snyder Cut being released earlier this year, we got to see Darkseid and a new version of Steppenwolf. So we have them here in their looks that match. And like for Darkseid, there is the exclusive version where he's actually got like the chest plate on, and I'll probably like that figure much more, but we have not got that figure yet, so we're just gonna be looking at the shirtless one here, and as I said, the new upgraded version of Steppenwolf with his armor as he appeared in the Snyder Cut. And if we look around on the back of the box, we can see, of course, there's a picture there of Darkseid, especially him there without his shirt on, but down at the bottom we have all the figures being released from the Snyder Cut that we have all ordered and are slowly starting to arrive, so we'll eventually be doing a video on all those figures, but for now we're just currently looking at the bad guys. But let me go ahead and get these out of the packages and then we'll check them out together. So starting off with Steppenwolf here, he looks pretty awesome, but as a figure, it's really hard to handle because of all the spikes he's got poking out of his outfit, as you can see around his neck and everything. So trying to mess this and get the movements, you're just getting poked the whole time in the hands and it hurts a little bit. So it's not the easiest action figure to handle, but it does look really good and it does look accurate to that Snyder Cut version of Steppenwolf. And I did enjoy the Snyder version much more than the original, and so I also like this version of Steppenwolf a lot more. So I'm glad they made a figure of it, so we have this version because I just think it looks awesome. But as you can see, he does have his alien looking head, or at least much more alien looking than the original one did, and then he's got his all metallic armor that throughout the movie looks like it was just kind of shifting around and moving, and you'd see all the little segmentation stuff. I don't know how they made this into a figure, but it's just got all these little segmentations and pieces, but it seemed like throughout the movie they would just kind of like shift around and move. But with Steppenwolf, he is a part of the New Gods and he is the uncle of Darkseid, and Steppenwolf's role is to lead the military of Apocalypse, the planet that the New Gods come from, and he has superhuman strength and reflexes. He is immortal, so immortal in a certain sense because we all know he dies at the end, and he has great leadership and military protocol, hence why we see him leading the attack on Earth. But the figure, like I said, overall looks pretty cool. So I like his big head with the weird like horns on top of it and everything. The alien face, as I mentioned already, I like that look a lot more. So you can see the details there of the face and everything. Just it does look more alienish. His eyes are kind of spread far apart with the nose in the middle, and you can see his mouth, and he does still have the little points on the chin, just not as noticeable as they were in the original version. So I like that change to the face. And then again, the outfit just looks awesome there in the all silver and the spikes and just the details and everything. You can see all the lines going into it and then all the spikes sticking out everywhere, as you can see. And then we can see his hands, which look really good. So again, the skin color matches his head, but the hand design just looks weird. So he has a bunch of fingers, looks like 7 fingers, so that's a little weird. So I got those, and the armor continues down, so we have like a loincloth design hanging down there in front, and we go down to his feet, which are really small, which is kind of weird for this giant body. We have these little itty bitty feet, which is crazy, but he has the 2 toes in the front there, and then even on the back of his legs he's got some extra toes or something coming out of the back of his leg there. Just looks weird and awesome at the same time. So definitely a weird looking figure, but pretty cool also. So for movements, his head can twist side to side and probably all the way around. You just gotta be careful not catching any of the spikes, and he can look just down about that far, so pretty much straight on, and he can look up just a little bit, so not a whole lot of range in the neck. So for movements, his shoulders, which are really stiff, can come up to 90 degrees, and they can rotate within the armor piece there, but I can't get it up too high just because the shoulder armor is a little bit stiffer, so you can't really get it to move, so you can only lift it just up about 90 degrees. We have a bit of a bicep twist, but again, it's real stiff, so it keeps sticking. And then we got a single elbow joint that can bend up to 90 degrees, and not really noticeable, but there is some rotation there as well. And then we get the wrist, which usually twist around, but I don't know if it's just because of the armor or why. These don't twist, but it does rock back and forth. You can clearly see the joint there, so it does have really good flexing. Then we have the ab crunch in the middle there, so he can crunch back and forth, mostly just back because his body's already in contact, so he can't really crunch forward anymore, but he does crunch back a little bit there, and he can twist side to side. And it also feels like he does have a joint there around at the waist that allows him to rock a little bit more back and forth. The hips can come up 90 degrees out to the side that far. It pretty much can do the splits. We've got a single knee joint that can bend up to 90 degrees there, and then the foot's on the ball joint, so it can rock back and forth there and twist just a little side to side, not a whole lot of movement there. And then we get the toe joint on the end, but because the toes are there, we have 2 separate ones, so we can move each of them individually, which is pretty cool. So I will say this figure looks really nice. Like I said, just putting it on a shelf, it'll look really nice, especially with the rest of the Justice League when we get them. But for an action figure, it doesn't really action too much. A lot of the joints are stiff and don't have much range of movement, and then with the spikes all over his body, it's hard to be able to hold him to get some of those movements in. And then with his little tiny feet, it is hard to get him to stand. But thankfully, since it is McFarlane, we do get the bases. So hopefully that base will help keep him standing. And for accessories, we do get his axe, which is an electro axe, as I guess they call it. So this very awesome looking axe, again, very alienish, but nice big blade there on the front. And I like the details into it with like the scrapes, and then the handle going down, which almost looks like a spine or something, just the way it's designed, and a spike on the end of it. So just very awesome. Let's see if we can get this this into his hand, which I don't know how easy this will be. So there we go. Definitely not the easiest thing to get into his hand. It was quite difficult, but thankfully they did install this thing where you can just pop the axe head off and it just splits off, and then I was able to slide that up into his hand, and then you can just pop the axe head right back on. So it does make it a lot easier, but still quite difficult to get that axe into his hand. And finally we have his card. So there's the picture of him from the movie, probably from the scene where he first arrives on Themyscira. And around on the back we have it's from the Justice League Director's Cut from 2021, and it says an 8-foot tall warrior from the nightmare world of Apocalypse. Steppenwolf is general of the Apocalyptian army with enhanced strength, agility, and endurance. Steppenwolf is a master of any weapon, but prefers to wield his electro staff to crush his opponents. So it matches pretty well with what I said earlier, even though that stuff was based off the comics. But overall, like I said, just as a figure standing here, especially when we get the other Justice League members to put in front of it, I think will look really cool. But as so much for an action figure, it's not that great overall. Like, doesn't really action too well. So it's better off just to be like a statue. And just so you can see the comparison, here is the original Steppenwolf figure we got from the DC Multiverse. This was a Build-A-Figure from the old DC Multiverse under Mattel. So this is what he looked like more in the original cut compared to what he looks like in the Snyder cut. So again, I definitely think the older one looks much worse. Like, I do not like this look at all for him, but you can tell their axes are almost pretty much exactly the same. So not much changed with the axe department, but their outfits changed, and then of course the designs of their face and stuff, but still left a little mandible on the chin there. So that's pretty cool, but I definitely think this new one's an improvement. And next up, we've got Darkseid himself, and he is the ruler of Apocalypse and the new gods, and his whole goal is to enslave the universe and eliminate all free will with the use of the anti-life equation, which brought him and his army to Earth. And the anti-life equation, if you don't know, is a formula for total control of thoughts and emotions of all living beings. So that equation allows you to control all living beings. So Darkseid here looks really cool. So Darkseid, if you don't know, is kind of like Thanos from the MCU. That's what Darkseid is to the DC universe. So he's kind of like the big baddie. But as you can see, he's got this all gray skin, which his skin got turned to stone when he got the Omega effect, kind of turned all his skin to stone. So that's why he looks very rocky and everything. It's always really noticeable in his face and stuff, looks much like stone. But I like his eyes and everything, how they're the yellow eyes, but then have the black around it. Looks pretty cool. And then we have his armor, which again, he is missing the chest plates with the really defined Omega logo on his chest, but here he just kind of has like an encaved chest indentation where you can see the Omega. But the rest of his armor looks cool. So he has his headpiece here, all blue there going down his back, and again, it's more of like the segmented pieces, similar to Steppenwolf, but much bigger sections. And that carries down into like his loincloth area. You can see all the segmentations there in the blue up there on the shins as well, and carries down to his feet. So you have the segmentations down the shin guards all the way to his feet, and similar on his arms with the forearm gauntlets there as well. So for his movements, his head can twist all the way around. He can look down just that far and up a little that far. Again, not much range in the neck. Shoulders come up 90 degrees and can rotate all the way around. We get a bit of a bicep twist, a double elbow joint, which this one's really stiff, so we have to move to this one so it can bend up that far. And then we get the wrist that can twist around, which are a little stiff and can flex back and forth. We have the ab crunch right there, so you can crunch back and forth. Again, mostly forward on this one and back just pretty much straight on, and can twist around in there as well. And then also has the lower joint in there, so it can bend even further forward and back and twist around there as well. His hips can come up 90 degrees out to the side of the far. Again, can do the splits. Darkseid does have a thigh twist up in there, and then we got a single knee joint that can bend up that far in the back. And his knee does have a twist in it as well, so you can twist the actual knee around. And then the foot can flex back and forth, and it doesn't twist side to side at all, so it's pretty stationary. And then we have the toe joint on the end that can move back and forth. So a little bit better movements compared to Steppenwolf, but still has some issues, so again, does not make the best action figure. But once again, we do get the base plate for him for the Multiverse, so let's pop him on that. And for accessories, we do get his weapon as well, but it is just this big, awkward looking weapon. It looks like it's got 4 blades total, the 3 on the back and the 1 giant one in the center, and the handle going down to a spike on the end as well. So let's go ahead and get this into his hand. So again, not the easiest weapon to get into his hand, but thankfully the weapon's really bendable and his hand is open a little bit more, so it was much easier to get it slid down into there, and that looks pretty awesome in his hand. And with Darkseid being a part of the new gods, he has superhuman strength and speed. He has superior intellect and immortal, just like Steppenwolf, but again, like everything, they can be killed. And as I mentioned earlier, he did take on the Omega effect, so it gave him Omega beams, which are pretty much like Superman's laser vision, but he shoots beams out of his eyes, but they just kind of go off in all different directions, which is pretty cool. But it also grants him the use of boom tubes. He can fly, use telepathy, and has the power of resurrecting people. And then we got his card as well, so there's a picture of him first arriving on Earth in that first battle with some other New Gods members there in the background from Apocalypse. And again, it's from the director's cut of Justice League. His real name is Uxas. I never know how to say his real name, but I want to say like Uxas or something. But then when he gets the Omega powers, he does become Darkseid. But it says the ultimate oppressor, Darkseid, lords over the nightmare planet of Apocalypse, ruling through force and intimidation. One of the most powerful characters in DC Comics, the evil despot can shoot deadly rays from his eyes known as Omega beams. Seeking to eliminate all free will from the universe, Darkseid has conquered a multitude of worlds with his sights now set on Earth. So that gives you a little bit more of the backstory there on Darkseid. And again, very cool. And I cannot wait till we get the armored up versions because I think it'll look so much cooler than the bare chested version we have here. So look for him in a future video. So there are two figures of Darkseid and Steppenwolf, two members of the New Gods from Apocalypse, and of course our two baddies from the Justice League movie. I think both look really cool. Like I said, I think they're going to be cool, especially if you just keep putting them in position and set them up on a shelf with the Justice League in front of them. But trying to get them in cool pose and stuff is a little bit difficult. But I still think they do look really cool, and I can't wait to see them with the other figures. And one last thing to throw in here, again with the old DC Multiverse where we had the old Steppenwolf, we do have some parademons we can throw in here. Of course, the invading army they used into Earth. I hope you enjoyed my review today. If you did, let me know with a thumbs up, and let me know what you thought of these two figures and the Snyder Cut of Justice League down in the comments. But I want to thank you all for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in our next review.